1 in 4 adults over the age of 70 falls every single year. That's not a scare statistic. That's CDC surveillance data, collected across thousands of emergency departments, spanning over 2 decades of injury tracking. And falls are not simply embarrassing moments. They are the leading cause of injury-related death in adults over 65 in the United States. According to the National Council on Aging, a fall-related injury occurs every single second of every single day in this country. But here's what concerns me far more than the numbers. Most of those falls were preventable, not theoretically preventable, not preventable with expensive equipment or complex physical therapy programs, preventable with one specific exercise, done consistently, done correctly. That addresses the exact neurological mechanism responsible for most falls after age 70. And the most important change I'm going to share with you today, number 1, is almost certainly the opposite of what you've been told. Stay with me. My name is Dr. Adrian Solberg. I'm a urologist and neurological health specialist with over 20 years of clinical practice working with adults between the ages of 55 and 80. I've treated thousands of patients, men and women, who came to me not necessarily because they had fallen, but because their body was quietly sending signals that their risk was climbing. And what I noticed over those 2 decades was a pattern, the same pattern, repeated across thousands of patients, across different body types, different fitness backgrounds, different medical histories. The people who were most at risk for falls were not the people who seemed weak. They were people whose nervous system had lost a very specific type of communication, a signal pathway most physicians don't discuss and most patients never hear about until something goes wrong. I want to talk about that today. Before I do, I want to ask you something honest. When you stand up from a chair right now, how confident do you feel in that first second? That moment before your feet fully find the floor? Think about that. Hold that answer. And if any part of this conversation resonates with what you're feeling in your own body, I'd genuinely like to know. Leave it in the comments. You won't be alone. Most people believe that falls happen because muscles get weak. That is partially true, but it is dangerously incomplete. Here's what is actually happening. Your body's ability to stay upright is not controlled by one system. It is controlled by 3 overlapping systems working simultaneously, what neuroscientists call the balance triad. The first is your visual system. Your eyes give your brain real-time spatial information about where you are in relation to everything around you. The second is your vestibular system, the fluid-filled structures in your inner ear that detect motion, acceleration, and head position. And the third the one that matters most for what I'm about to explain, is your proprioceptive system. Proprioception is your body's ability to sense where it is in space without using your eyes. It's the reason you can walk to the bathroom in the middle of the night without turning the lights on. It's the reason you don't fall every time you step off a curb. Proprioception is delivered through a network of specialized sensory receptors, mechanoreceptors, embedded in your muscles, your tendons, your joints, and the soles of your feet. These receptors fire signals up through your peripheral nervous system, through your spinal cord, and into your cerebellum, the part of your brain responsible for coordination and balance. Now, here's where the science becomes critical. Research published in the Journal of Neurophysiology confirms that proprioceptive receptor sensitivity declines at a rate of approximately 1% per year after the age of 50. That means by age 70, you may have lost 20% or more of your body's ability to sense its own position in space. 20%. Not because you stopped exercising, not because of a specific injury, simply because of age-related neurological change. Harvard Medical School research has shown that this proprioceptive decline is one of the primary drivers of fall risk in older adults, even in adults who remain physically active. But this is where almost everyone gets it wrong. Most fall prevention programs focus entirely on strengthening the muscles. Leg presses, squats, resistance bands, and muscle strength matters, absolutely. But if the nervous system cannot receive proprioceptive feedback fast enough to activate those muscles at the right moment, the strength is irrelevant. It's like having a powerful brake system in your car. With a severed brake cable, the power is there. The signal is not arriving. What I'm going to share with you today is the exercise that directly addresses the signal, not just the muscle. And number 1 on this list is the piece most physicians never mention. Number 7, Most people believe that thick padded shoes protect them from falls. Clinically, the opposite is true. Here's what's happening inside your foot. Your plantar fascia, the connective tissue running across the bottom of your foot, contains a dense concentration of mechanoreceptors. These receptors send critical proprioceptive information to your brain with every step. When you wear thick, cushioned footwear, you are literally insulating your foot from the ground. You are reducing the tactile and pressure feedback those receptors need to accurately report your position. Research published in Gait and Posture found that adults who wore minimal or thin-soled footwear indoors had significantly better balance scores compared to those wearing heavily cushioned shoes. Think of it this way. Imagine trying to feel the texture of a surface through a thick rubber glove. You can still grasp, but the precision is gone. That's what cushioned footwear does to your proprioceptive signal, at exactly the age when that signal is already declining. The correction is simple. Inside your home, wear thin-soled slippers or go barefoot on safe, dry surfaces for at least 30 minutes per day. Let those foot receptors speak directly to your brain. Number 6. Pay attention to this next part. The most dangerous moment for a fall is not when you're walking, it is the transition. Standing up from a chair, turning around, stepping off a curb, moving from lying down to sitting. These transitions require your balance triad to rapidly recalibrate. Your vestibular system detects the head movement. Your proprioceptive system reports the limb positions. Your visual system adjusts to the new field of view. And your brain must integrate all 3 signals simultaneously, in less than 1 second. After age 70, that integration speed slows. Research from the Mayo Clinic has documented that older adults show a measurable delay in sensory integration during postural transitions, and that delay directly correlates with fall risk. What most people do in response to feeling unsteady during transitions, they move faster. They rush through the moment of instability to get to a stable position. This is exactly wrong. Fast transitions overwhelm a slower sensory integration system. Slow, deliberate transitions give the system time to catch up. The correction? Practice every transition consciously. Stand up in a 3 count. Sit down in a 3 count. Turn your body in segments rather than pivoting on one foot. Slow is safe. Rushed is risk. Number 5. This one surprises nearly every patient I share it with. Most people know dehydration affects kidney function. Most know it affects blood pressure. Very few understand what it does to nerve signal speed. Your peripheral nerves, the very nerves carrying proprioceptive signals from your feet and legs to your brain, require adequate electrolyte balance to maintain their conduction velocity. Sodium, potassium, and magnesium are not just nutrients. They are electrochemical carriers that propagate the nerve impulse itself. Research from the Journal of the American Geriatric Society found that mild to moderate dehydration, levels that don't produce obvious thirst, significantly reduced reaction time and postural stability in adults over 65. Here's the clinical reality. After age 60, your thirst sensation becomes less reliable. Your kidneys become less efficient at conserving fluid. And many older adults unknowingly live in a state of mild chronic dehydration, not because they're negligent, but because their body's signaling has changed. When your nerve conduction slows by even a fraction, the proprioceptive signal from your foot arrives at your cerebellum slightly delayed. And in the physics of balance, a fraction of a second is the difference between recovery and a fall. The correction? Aim for a minimum of 6 to 8 cups of water daily. Include 1 serving of electrolyte-containing foods, bananas, sweet potatoes, leafy greens, at each major meal. Hydrate before you feel thirsty. Your nerves will thank you. Number 4. Let that sink in for a moment. Your ankle is arguably the most important proprioceptive joint in your entire body for balance. It contains a concentration of mechanoreceptors, particularly in the joint capsule and surrounding tendons, that continuously report ankle angle, ground pressure distribution, and microcorrections to your postural control centers. Research from Johns Hopkins University has identified ankle proprioception as one of the strongest independent predictors of fall risk in older adults. Not hip strength, not knee stability. Ankle proprioception. What reduces ankle proprioceptive function? Sedentary behavior, specifically extended periods of sitting that reduce circulation and sensory stimulation to the ankle joint, chronic ankle swelling from venous insufficiency or inflammation, and prior ankle sprains that have left microscopic damage in the joint receptor network. The correction: ankle mobility exercises performed daily, not stretches, not strength training. Specific proprioceptive loading, and I'll describe the number one exercise that addresses this in full detail in just a few minutes. Number one is built around this exact mechanism. Do not skip ahead. Number 3. Most people understand sleep affects energy. Fewer understand what it does to motor control. During deep sleep, specifically slow-wave sleep and REM, your brain consolidates motor programs. It takes the balance-related movements you practice during the day and encodes them into more efficient neural pathways. This is not a metaphor. This is measurable neuroscience. Research from the NIH National Institute on Aging demonstrated that older adults who received less than 6 hours of sleep per night showed measurably slower postural reflexes, reduced motor program accuracy, and increased sway during static balance testing compared to age-matched adults sleeping 7 to 8 hours. The connection becomes even more important when you consider that balance correction after a stumble is a motor program, a learned, stored, automated sequence. If that program isn't properly consolidated because of disrupted sleep, your body cannot execute it fast enough when you need it. From a neurological perspective, sleep-deprived balance is like trying to run software that hasn't finished installing. The correction: prioritize sleep hygiene with the same seriousness you would give any medication. Consistent sleep and wake times, a cool, dark room, limiting fluids within 2 hours of bedtime, and addressing any underlying sleep disruption with your physician. Number 2. This is where almost everyone gets it wrong, and it may be the most psychologically understandable mistake on this list. When someone feels unsteady, the natural protective response is to avoid situations that create instability. Stop walking on uneven ground. Use walls and furniture for support everywhere. Move less in general. This feels logical. It is physiologically catastrophic. Here's the neuroscience. Your proprioceptive system is a use-dependent system. Like your cardiovascular system, like your muscle tissue, it responds to challenge with adaptation. When you consistently expose your balance system to controlled instability, your mechanoreceptors fire more frequently, your neural pathways strengthen, and your brain becomes more efficient at integrating balance signals. When you avoid challenge entirely, that system atrophies. Research published in The Lancet documented that fear of falling and the subsequent activity restriction it causes is an independent risk factor for future falls. Not a correlation, an independent risk factor. The avoidance behavior itself increases the very risk it's trying to prevent. The correction is not recklessness. It is structured, supervised balance challenge. Daily, progressive, intentional instability in a safe environment. And that brings us to number 1. If you've recognized yourself in even 2 of these patterns, I want you to stay with me for the next few minutes, because what I'm about to share is the single most important thing in this entire conversation. It is also the thing that almost no fall prevention program leads with, and I believe that is a clinical failure. Number 1 is not a complicated exercise. It does not require equipment, it does not require a gym, but it directly targets the proprioceptive pathway, the ankle-brain highway, the neuromuscular response speed, everything we've discussed, in one simple daily protocol. And the research supporting it is extraordinarily clear. Here's the common advice. Walk more. Strengthen your legs. Use a cane if you need one. All reasonable. None of them directly retrain proprioception. Number 1 is single-leg stance training with progressive sensory deprivation. I want to say that slowly so it registers. Single-leg stance, standing on one foot. With progressive sensory deprivation, systematically reducing one of your other balance senses so that your proprioceptive system is forced to work harder. This is not my invention. This is the clinical application of decades of balanced neuroscience. A landmark study published in the Journal of the American Geriatric Society, the Otago Exercise Program Research, followed over 1,000 community-dwelling older adults and found that targeted balance training, anchored in single-leg stance progressions, reduced fall rates by 35% over a 12-month period. 35%. A 2020 study published in Age and Aging, a peer-reviewed journal from the British Geriatric Society, confirmed that proprioceptive training using single-leg balance with eyes closed produced significantly greater improvements in postural stability than strength training alone in adults over 65, and research from the University of Illinois Neuroscience Laboratory demonstrated that just 4 weeks of daily single-leg balance practice produced measurable changes in the density and sensitivity of ankle mechanoreceptors, the very receptors that decline with age. 4 weeks. That is the kind of timeline that should change how you spend the next 10 minutes of every morning. Here's how you implement this. 3 stages. A clear daily protocol. Stage 1. Days 1 through 7. Stand near a kitchen counter or sturdy chair. Place both hands lightly on the surface. Fingertips only, not gripping. Lift 1 foot just off the floor and hold for 10 seconds. Then switch. Repeat 5 times on each side. The fingertips are there for safety, not support. You're training your ankle mechanoreceptors to fire under loading conditions. That loading is the stimulus. Do this in bare feet or thin-soled footwear. The ground feedback matters. Stage 2. Days 8 through 21. Remove the hand support. Stand near the counter but don't touch it. Hold 1 foot up for 20 to 30 seconds. Maintain your gaze at a fixed point on the wall at eye level. If you wobble, touch the counter briefly and resume. That wobble is your proprioceptive system working. That is the adaptation stimulus. Both sides, 5 repetitions each, every single day. Stage 3. Day 22 and beyond. This is the most powerful stage, and it requires that you stand within arm's reach of a support surface. Close your eyes, lift 1 foot, hold for 10 to 20 seconds. With vision removed, your brain can no longer rely on the visual channel of the balanced triad. Your vestibular and proprioceptive systems must carry the full load. This is the exact condition that forces your ankle mechanoreceptors to adapt, to fire more rapidly, to become more sensitive. I wish someone had told me this sooner, told every patient I've seen who fell that 5 minutes in the morning, done in stages, done consistently, could have meaningfully changed their trajectory. The total daily time investment, 5 to 7 minutes. The neurological return, measurable, documented, replicated across multiple independent clinical trials. Do this every morning. Before coffee, if that helps you remember. Make it a non-negotiable part of your day the way you would a morning medication. I want to be honest with you about what happens when this is ignored, not to frighten you, because I don't think fear changes behavior, but because you deserve accurate information about what the data shows. According to the CDC, falls are responsible for more than 3 million emergency department visits per year among adults over 65. Over 800,000 of those result in hospitalization, most often for hip fractures or traumatic head injuries. A hip fracture after age 70 carries a 12-month mortality rate of approximately 20 to 30%. That is not a statistic to be set aside. And beyond the physical injury, the neurological consequences compound. Research from JAMA Internal Medicine has documented that a serious fall event frequently accelerates cognitive decline in older adults, even when there is no direct head injury. The psychological impact of a fall, the fear, the loss of confidence, the activity restriction, changes neural patterns in ways that extend far beyond the physical recovery. The hospitalization also disrupts sleep. It disrupts routine. It disrupts the very daily practices that protect independence. And independence, the ability to live in your own home, to move through your own life on your own terms, is ultimately what this is about. Not fitness, not vanity. Independence. The proprioceptive system is trainable. The ankle-brain highway can be strengthened. The balance triad can be sharpened, not to the level of a 30-year-old, but to a meaningfully better level than you have right now without intervention. The difference between a stumble that you recover from and a stumble that ends in a fracture is often measured in milliseconds, and those milliseconds belong to a proprioceptive system that either has been trained or has not. Tonight, when you stand up from your chair, I want you to feel that first half second, that moment when your body finds the floor, when your ankles adjust, When your brain integrates everything it's receiving and makes the decision that you are stable. That moment is not automatic. It is a neurological event, and it can be protected. You have more control over your independence than most people realize. Not infinite control, but meaningful, actionable, evidence-based control, starting with 5 minutes tomorrow morning near a kitchen counter in bare feet. Your brain is still adapting. Your nervous system is still capable of change. The science is unambiguous on this. Do not wait for a fall to take this seriously. The time to train the proprioceptive system is before it fails, not after. If this medically grounded guidance helps you protect your independence, consider subscribing. I'm Dr. Adrian Solberg. Stay aware, stay proactive, and take care of your body. I'll see you in the next video.